Good afternoon. My name is Solomon Thomas, also known as Kamcheti Nabikamba, and today I am sharing with you an experience or experiences that I had in my past that sort of coincide with what happened recently with a young African American brother, FedEx worker, that has been shared online quite recently. I saw it through Roland Martin, Unfiltered, and also uh, another broadcast news show. But nonetheless, I I went to church this morning, and strangely or not strangely enough, the pastor and church leaders, instead of preaching a sermon today, had everyone in a sort of a town hall meeting like conference discuss that particular issue, and everyone in the audience was basically asked to say something on the matter, and I did, because what happened to that young man, FedEx worker, is not an isolated incident. It happens very frequently behind closed doors, and I particularly can identify with such a situation. First of all, I'm living in Dallas, Texas. I just moved down here, and I know there are a lot of racial issues, but I lived in Boston as well. I lived in New York as also. But while I was coming up in Boston, I used to work for a Social Security Administration office in the vicinity, and at one particular location, or rather one particular time, I was working during the summer as a summer aide back in the 80s, and the manager of the office was on leave, and another manager came across to oversee the operations of the office. And I never met him. I was never introduced to him. But when we crossed paths, he said something to me that resonated for a long time with me. He said to me, quote unquote, "You would never be the president of the United States," unquote. Now, since he said that, um, I particularly looked at him as very hostile, ignorant, and totally basically was a bigot. I never met him. I never saw him since, but others told me about him in the office after that situation, because they probably heard what he said to me. And I particularly remembered his name as well. It was but it is irrelevant in the sense that that time has gone. That's over 30 years ago. But what happened then to me, I was well dressed. I was about 18 years old. It opened my mind and my eyes to see basically what was going on in the professional or the business community, the work community, and this was a federal office as well. So it was definitely a racist incident. I never reported it. It never went in any document or any books or anywhere, but I paid very close attention to that type of attitude since then. Another incident, and this has happened many years later, in the same city of Boston, while I was a teller at Citizens Bank, a manager, a young woman, younger than I am at that point in time, I was in my late 20s, came over to me, and well, she actually asked everyone to wear a particular T-shirt, which was a sort of a reference to a product line that was being promoted. She wants sales to go up. She wants more new accounts open. She wants mortgage applications in, and she asked everyone on the teller line, including me, to wear a particular T-shirt a white T-shirt with the American flag, and under the flag was a slogan printed, quote unquote, "Be free and pay no fee," unquote. That was the slogan that was printed that upset quite a few people in the line, the customer service, the customer line, including a Caucasian customer that frequent that location in Back Bay. And he said to me one day, he usually wore dark glasses, but he came over to me and said, "That is an offense to the civil rights movement." And I just shrugged because I was not wearing one, and the others who were wearing it never really paid attention to those sensitive issues, perhaps as I did. And one of them even had the nerve to say, "Solomon, why are you not wearing the T-shirt? Do you know that this is probably going to hinder you from not getting, or rather from getting a promotion?" And I stuck my grounds because I realized that was an immoral statement and it was upsetting a lot of people, including myself. Eventually, as time went on, they found something to hype up against me. I was in charge of doing ATM deposits and refurnishing the ATM. They accused me of a shortage of a deposit for 300, which was really $3, but they decided that they would try and get rid of me by saying it was short $297 and that I was responsible for the other 297. And they eventually called me down to the head office in downtown Boston and asked me to resign. But the fact of the matter is, if I really wanted to steal money, would I not try to steal money from the ATM itself rather than from an envelope from a customer? So everything didn't make sense, but I realized it was a racist environment and they simply wanted to remove anyone that was trying or not cooperating, quote unquote, with their ways of managing and promoting their business. So I eventually left Citizens Bank for good in 1996. I did file a claim with the Massachusetts Commission against discrimination. That went another way, but I did go all the way to the top in terms of getting this situation rectified because it hindered my career. It put a sort of a spike in my way that caused me to regress for quite some years before I eventually went back into banking in a professional way in loan operations. So I've experienced other incidents similar to those. I also worked for the United States Census Bureau, and I experienced racism as someone who is licensed to carry, to inquire with questionnaires. I was treated as if I was someone trying to, invade somebody's privacy on many occasions, and even on the streets, people would look at me as if, I'm doing something that they didn't appreciate, or I was breaking the law, but I was just doing my job. So racism while working being discriminated against while working is very, very common. And what happened to the brother is very unfortunate, but I'm glad that the whole community that is paying attention. I wish more people would, but more people are paying attention, even in the churches now, about this type of behavior. Because if you are being discriminated against simply because you're doing a job, then it means that, and not because you're doing a job, but you're black at that. It means that you are simply being discriminated because of who you are, what you are, and what you don't have any control over, the color of your skin. So these are very serious issues, and in these times we have to be very vigilant and very proactive in exposing this type of attitude and behavior. We have to take proactive measures because this man, like Ahmaud Aubery could have been killed. And as one of the commentators said recently, it was almost like a copycat sort of a situation where he could have been killed simply because he was doing his job. So I made this video with the intention of spreading the awareness that it's not an isolated incident, but it's not something to be very lenient or, just keep laid back about. This is these are very serious issues, and they could affect you emotionally, psychologically, and of course financially. So we have to fight. I stood my ground, and I came back stronger than I was. And no one would try to say anything like that to me at this point in my life or in my career. They would eventually see a different side of me. But I held my peace and I allowed God to fight my battle. So spread the word around and let everybody know that discrimination, bigotry in the workplace is not acceptable behavior. Racism is simply not acceptable. It's totally sinful, ungodly, and to have someone stoop that low to try to pull down another human being simply because of the color of his skin or the content of his character is simply unacceptable, and it should not be tolerated. Thank you.